Hi everybody, Brian from Steeda, spotlighting the QA1 Rev Series carbon fiber drive shaft for the S550 Mustang model years 2018 and later. Let's start with the construction. QA1 really leaned on their engineers to come up with a lightweight drive shaft that was also strong and create a process that was repeatable, so there's consistency within the product. And of course, we mentioned strength. That's oh so important when you're talking about a race part that's going to be tested time and time and time again, like a one-piece drive shaft. So they started out with developing their own matrix resin. The resin is what actually holds all the carbon fibers together. In fact, they also spec out the specific carbon fiber that they're going to use by width and thickness, depending on the application it's going on to. Trucks take something different than a Mustang versus something else that they may offer these drive shafts for. So the actual carbon tubing is specific to the application. It's also really important to note that these strands, these carbon fibers, if you will, are wound together, and QA1 really put a nice video together of their manufacturing process. Something that's important to a piece like this that is literally stranded together is making sure that there's consistency. We talked about that just a moment ago, and that consistency is checked with each length of tubing that's done at QA1. Now what's neat is they actually will cut a section of the tubing off and inspect it for thickness and make sure there's no voids within it. It's a spot check on each one. Now that you have this beautiful lightweight carbon fiber midsection, it's time to bond it to the ends. This is classified information. I'm not telling you that because I know the answer. I don't, because QA1 won't tell us. We tried, we've watched their videos. The reality is it's a trade secret in how they made sure that the U-joints at each end stay bonded to the carbon fiber, and they do. In fact, this drive shaft is rated to 1,000 pound-feet of torque or 1,500 horsepower. So it's amazing for something that's less than half the weight of the factory drive shaft to be able to handle 1,000 pound-feet of torque or 1,500 horsepower. Once the ends are bonded, the drive shaft is moved over to their torsion tester where they test each drive shaft. Once again, ensuring that the bonding process was appropriate, ensuring that the carbon fiber is going to hold up, and really again, going through their quality control process before this gets sent to you. At one end, you have a 1350 Spicer U-joint, and this is designed for high strength and serviceability and beautiful billet ends. At the other end, QA1 utilizes a high-speed CV joint that also utilizes high-speed boot and of course, high-temperature grease. In addition to the CV joint being able to absorb some of the natural drivetrain vibration, carbon fiber as a material also has some dampening characteristics to it. So the whole point of all the balance and strength, well, there really is no downside to it. But we are going to touch on this a little bit more here in a second. Now that we've talked about how it's all made, what does it ultimately mean to you as an enthusiast, as a driver, as a racer? Well, carbon fiber drive shaft is a phenomenal way to reduce rotating mass. And this is important whether we're talking about wheels and brakes. Anytime you can reduce rotating mass, the usable horsepower and torque that the car has as it sits right now is going to pick up. You're going to gain responsiveness because there's less energy being absorbed by the two-piece drive shaft when you put a lightweight carbon fiber piece like this in its place. This also means because it's stiffer than a two-piece design, you're going to have better power transfer. You have much better feedback as far as the engine to the transmission to the differential. Everything feels much more connected and less vague. Let's talk about some of the realities of installing something like this though. While researching a one-piece drive shaft, we're certain that you've stumbled across the term noise vibrationist harshness, which is NVH, and that every one-piece drive shaft causes that. And let's debunk a major myth with that statement. The reality is that the carbon nature of the carbon fiber drive shaft inherently will absorb some vibration. And of course, the CV also helps with that, as we mentioned a moment ago. So where does this vibration come from? Well, like any manufacturer, there are tolerances within the design of a vehicle, in particular in your ring and pinion and gear set in the rear differential, as well as in the transmission. So you have an engine turning a transmission turning a drive shaft, and a drive shaft turning your differential. So inherently, if there's tolerances within the transmission and there's tolerances within the differential, And if things are within tolerance, but maybe not to the same tolerance as the drive shaft, those things may vibrate. Ford utilizes a two-piece drive shaft from the factory to help absorb some of the natural vibrations from the differential, as well as the transmission, and isolate them to that bearing up top. So when you go to a one-piece drive shaft, it's not the drive shaft itself that's creating a vibration, it's actually vibration that might be coming naturally from the differential or the transmission or both, and the harmonics as those are meeting each other. Some of the other additional benefits are the sheer strength of this thing. As noted, 1,000 pound-feet of torque or 1,500 horsepower to the tires. This means that this thing will absorb almost anything that you can throw at it and put it back through the wheels. That said, we definitely recommend, if you haven't already done your half shafts, look into a set of either G-Force or Ford Performance half shafts at the back of the car, because the thing about racing is, you replace one thing with a high-end component, you will find the very next weakness, and it always goes in conjunction. If it's not your half shafts, it's the drive shaft. If it's not the drive shaft, it's the clutch. You guys get the idea of where we're going here. It's always a system, and work with key components that work well together. This QA1 piece is not only stunning, not only lightweight, it is also strong. If you're at the racetrack and something happens as far as the drive shaft is concerned, one of the other benefits to carbon fiber is that it splits. This means that unlike an aluminum drive shaft, should something catastrophic happen during a race, and we know you're going to be out there competing and enjoying the car and putting it through its paces, as you should, this will split. That means that you won't have any shrapnel, if you will, moving around or rotating around under the car. It simply breaks. If it breaks, QA1 wants it back. They want to know exactly what happened to it. And if you run into this, either comment below or just as importantly, reach out to us, especially if you purchased it through us or QA1 directly. Their engineers really do want to utilize your feedback to learn and continue making this a better and better part. And you see this. And this is why so many people, including ourselves, are competing with a QA1 drive shaft. In fact, you'll see the 10R80 version of this drive shaft in our Edelbrock Supercharged Silver Bullet, which you will see at the drag strip almost every weekend. Also, for those competing or considering competing, QA1 offer an SFI certified version. The QA1 Rev Series carbon fiber drive shaft is well known in the Mustang community, particularly for how lightweight it is, as well as its strength. We do recommend that this only be utilized for cars that are seeing a lot of track use and are more or less weekend warriors. So whether you're going to the drag strip, an autocross event, or track days road racing the car, this is a great piece for you and a great way to save some rotating mass and add that additional strength. To learn more about this drive shaft or to order yours, visit Steeda.com. If you have questions or comments, definitely post them below. And if you enjoyed the content of this video, please click like and share with other enthusiasts. Hit the subscribe button and be sure to ring the bell so you get notifications of upcoming videos as we release them. To see the latest and greatest things that we're doing with our Mustangs and other Ford vehicles, follow us on social media. We thank you so much for watching. Steeda, speed matters.